All right, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's MicroStrat chat, Leadership Through COVID-19, the CEO Perspective. I want to just go over a couple housekeeping tips before I introduce our facilitator and leadership executives. We are going to be recording this session. We are encouraging all attendees to ask any questions that you may have, as this is an open forum for discussion. When not speaking, we're going to ask that you just keep yourself on mute. This is going to reduce any background noise for other people. Any questions that you have that you may not be comfortable asking out loud, feel free to type them in the Q&A section, and we will make sure to get passed along to the facilitator. Again, we just want to thank you for taking time out of your day today to join us. It is now my pleasure to introduce your facilitator and panelists for today. Facilitating the session will be Lisa Kavanaugh. She's an executive here at MicroStrategies. Our panelists for today are Anthony Giovanni, CEO of MicroStrategies, and Ralph DeVito, CEO of the Investment Center. Lisa, why don't I go ahead and turn it over to you to introduce yourself and get this kicked off.
Thank you so much, Kelly. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for taking the time to join us today. I'm getting a bunch of feedback. I don't know if someone else is hearing that. So yes, I'm executive here at MicroStrategies, leading the practices, and I really just wanted to thank Anthony and Ralph very much for taking the time out of their very busy schedules to join us today in the webinar. I know the conversation will be very informative for all of the attendees to be able to learn from the experiences that you have in leading through uncertain times. Anthony and Ralph, could you just take a minute as well to share a few thoughts about your organizations and your history together? Anthony?
Sure. Good morning, everybody. As Lisa said, I'm the CEO of MicroStrategies. We're a technology solutions provider, and I hope everybody is well. I think that's the most important thing today, right? Keeping all of our families and our staff safe and in good health. Appreciate everybody joining. These are certainly interesting times that we are in today, and presents lots of challenges. And I hope that the presentation today, the webinar today, gives you little nuggets of information that will be helpful as you navigate all the things that we're going through. I'm really happy that Ralph joined us. Just to give you a little bit of history with Ralph DeVito, who is as well the CEO of the Investment Center. Ralph and I have a very, very long history together. Actually, about 35 years ago, when we both started in business, we were quite small at the time, and Ralph needed a management system for his organization to start off his new business, and we were both quite small, maybe just I don't know if we had an employee or two between us. But we had the opportunity to work together for many years and to watch each other's business grow over the past 35 years, which has been really interesting. So we've been through a lot of things together, and as well, we have spent a lot of time in terms of sharing our thoughts, sharing our perspectives, our opportunities, our wins, and as well our challenges, and leaning on each other a little bit. So very happy that Ralph could join us and be with us today, and look forward to the conversation. And Ralph, why don't you take a minute and tell us a little bit about the Investment Center?
Thanks, Anthony. And I want to reiterate what you said about hoping that everybody's safe and healthy and secure in this time. The Investment Center is a financial services corporation, primarily dealing with individual investors. We have approximately 300 registered reps or financial advisors around the country in 32 different states. They're managing at the peak when about a month before this whole thing started, when the market came down, about anywhere between $9 and $10 billion and about 80,000 different accounts. It's really, the company is made up of, we have IC Financial, which is the holding company. It's not really just the Investment Center. We have the Investment Center, which is on the security side, IC Advisory Services on the advisory side, and IC Insurance, all rolled up to IC Financial. From the home office perspective, we have 45 approximately employees in Bedminster, New Jersey. Their primary responsibility is to service these 300 reps and their clients. We've been doing this since we incorporated in 1986, just about when I met Anthony. I think we met through his brother, Danny. Then my father went out to a connecting point store and said, I need a computer. And Danny said to him, what do you need it for? And the phone rang and it was Anthony. We had a really great relationship for a very, very long time. He's provided all almost all of our infrastructure has always hounded us on going back to the day of making sure you have backups. So we started there. That was the big thing. Then it was cyber, and it was redundancies and backup plans, disaster recovery, and really has been a great resource for us. And we really appreciate everything that you guys do for us.
Thank you, Ralph.
Thank you, Ralph.
You're welcome.
So the role of the CEO is really the most pivotal role in an organization. You both are the North Star, which guides and inspires people during normal times. In the times of crisis, employees really do look to the CEO to exemplify trust and compassion, stability, and hope. During these times that are so unprecedented right now, it would really be great if you could share how you are both blending that human side of leading with really what is required to keep the businesses running. Anthony, would you share your thoughts on that?
Sure, absolutely. For us, we've been through a lot of things before. Being in business for 35 years, 37 years actually, there's a lot of economic times that we have been through, including weather-related situations like Hurricane Sandy and the like. And this particular situation is unprecedented. It's uncharted territory for almost every, and I would think every organization. But for us, the focus, and for me, the focus has been setting the priorities, and that is so critically important, because I think that the worst part of being in a difficult situation is the unknown, right? So if you can really focus on setting priorities and then build a plan associated with those priorities, I think that really helps people. So for us today, those priorities are really making sure that our staff is safe. I mean, that's our utmost priority. Safe at home, safe in the workplace, which predominantly is their home, and safe in the event that they need to go help a customer. The other thing, too, the other priority, the second priority for us is supporting our clients. Our customers have as much of a desire to be in business every day and a need to be in business every day as we do. So being able to support them, technology is critically important to those customers today, to be able to change their work environment and still be agile and get the things done that they need to do. So that's our second priority. And then the third thing is really weathering the storm, right? Preparing to weather the storm and laying out the plan in terms of how do we do that? What do we need to do? Balancing the human aspect, if you pay attention to, if your highest priority is your people, then everything else follows suit. But there's a lot of things that you need to do to make sure that people stay in a good place.
Yeah, I agree, Anthony. I was away, believe it or not. I don't know if I was smart or not, but I went away the first week in March with the family, went to an island, and it didn't seem to be as bad as it was when I left. And I was only away for 5 nights. And as I was away, this whole thing started to really, kick in. And our first concern, I was talking to them from Turks and Caicos, the home office, and really was the concern is what are we going to do for people? We have an individual in the office has, compromised immune system and has respiratory issues. And she was one of the first ones we immediately said we needed to get to a safe place being home. And we tried to do that. Then we had to lay out a plan for what are we going to do. And then, then you started to get into the operational side and the computer side of the whole scenario. And it's really about communicating with the people, giving them an idea of what we're thinking about, what direction we thought we were going to go on literally day one of this, and then how we can continue to communicate as the progresses and evolves. So as providing trust and confidence, I think if you give them a layout, a really good plan for everybody, communicate the plan, execute the plan, and if you have to, you modify the plan, and they just have to understand. And I think that you build that trust and confidence over years of being around each other all this time, and it gets enhanced in this kind of scenario.
Absolutely.
So would you say it's really not as much of a balance, but really more of an integration between how are you operating that business and the realities of those factors with how to make sure you keep your team members safe, and as you said, Anthony, as the number one priority in the organization, making sure that they are in a place where they need to do their jobs. Yeah,
well, exactly. I mean, you know what? Crisis is not a time to panic. And, from a leadership perspective, I think, the real focus is laying out that plan, and being very clear with people. I think, as I said before, one of the hardest things is not knowing what's going to happen, and we can't forecast what's going to happen with the pandemic. And fortunately, some of the news that we're starting to get now is very positive, which is great. But I think clarity is the key with the teams, with the staff, and as well with the customers too. So understanding where are you at right now, what is the focus right now, and where do you need to go? And as Ralph mentioned, you know, identifying that point and building that plan to get there, and then being able to shift that plan. You know, today it's really important to be very, very agile, because we have to pick a point so we can build a plan. But we know that that point probably is going to move as we get new data, and everything is changing day by day. So, you know, we generally plan by the year, sometimes by the quarter. Today we have to plan by the days and weeks, and we have to have that ability to be able to shift our plan quickly. And communication is fundamental. It's fundamental with staff, and the CEO's communication is very important, but the leadership team's communication is very important too, because they are the ones that are talking to the broader staff in the organization every day. So there's got to be a tight connectivity between the CEO and the leadership team, and then all the managers, you know, so that the communication flows well down to each staff member, so that they are aware of where we are, what we're doing, where we want to go, and making them part of the solution. That's really key too. Everybody needs to be part of the solution, and I think everybody being part of the solution makes them feel better about what's in front of them. So keeping everybody calm is not the easiest thing to do, and it is something that needs to be focused on every day. But I think that, you know, at MicroStrategies, the leadership team has been phenomenal, and this entire broader staff has been phenomenal. They're all participating in getting through this. So very, very happy to see that.
Yeah, I agree with you, Anthony. You go out and
go ahead, Ralph.
You know, we thought we had a perfect plan, you know, developed together with you and your staff for disaster recovery. And then when this all came about, you know, I had initially thought we would declare at our disaster site so that we could split everybody up into two different groups. Rob and, you know, our head of IT said, no, we think we should get people working from home. And, you know, instantly, you know, when I was communicating from vacation, all right, go out and buy laptops. But we pivoted literally in 3 days in what we were expecting to be dealing with.
Right. Exactly.
You know, and the staff, I agree with that too. You know, I'm not a micromanager. My team will tell you that. And, you know, I think you've been around me enough to know that. So when I was on the phone with them, it was really just a matter, okay, what do you think we should do? How are we going to do it? Okay, go do it, run with it. By the time I got back on March 11th, it was almost in place. First, people were starting to get their laptops and going home, and then probably midweek of the next week, about half of the people were gone. We're still half in the office and half out, just about, and it's running smoothly. You know, we have to manage also two sides of the business. I have my home office staff, and then I have those 300 advisors. We have to communicate with them too. So we immediately had what we call a town hall, kind of give our advisors an update, constantly communicating with them daily for things that they can do to help their clients. We want to make sure that our advisors are not feeling like they're on an island somewhere, and get a good feel of what we're doing. Our plan is in place, and, you know, not necessarily all the little nuts and bolts of that does everybody have to understand, but they have to understand that there is a plan in place, we're doing it, and that we're not getting our service disrupted. And so far we're running almost at 100%. We're almost busier now than we were prior, which is almost insane. And what I've also noticed that I'm not finding a lot of panic as there was in 2008. When 2008 hit, I had a bunch of advisors that I was worried about. You know, they were, you know, real anxiety built up, and clients were panicking. This one is just a little bit different. I think people are coming together a little bit better. I've talked to a number of the advisors personally, like just kept calling, and they're saying that their clients aren't panicking as they did in 2008. They're actually saying, how are you? one person said something flowers, another one said something a gift basket, making sure that the rep was okay,
Right.
as opposed to doing it the other way around.
Yeah.
So it's a really, I don't know, interesting time, but it's
I agree. It's a little different. It is a little different than some of the other things that we've been through, some of the other events. People are very concerned for themselves and their health and their well-being, and it seems that everybody has a common priority associated with that. The other thing that is very interesting to me, too, is that everybody feels that everybody has confidence that we're going to get through this, that, we're going to rebound, not just as organizations, but as communities and as a country, too. So there doesn't seem to be a giant amount of gloom and doom. More so, what do we need to do to effectively get through this and then rebound and everybody get healthy, not only personally, but as well economically. So it's an interesting time for certain.
Yeah, I think the economics of it are going to be drastic. It's been about a month and a half now, 3-4 million people unemployed. There's going to be a long-term effect on this. But from a business point of view, we're in the middle of it. We're prepared. We're running. We're solid. Financially, we've taken part in the SBA, the PPP program. We're financially set. We're sound right now. If it goes much worse, things could change. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go right ahead.
No, I was just going to say. Now, I think both of you have said some very interesting things with respect to the fact that, you can't panic and you have to be able to really lay out that plan. And I think also as well as how you've pulled in your leadership teams to be able to navigate that crisis and navigate that unknown. Do you feel, were there times throughout that process that you did feel as though balancing your own anxieties with that unknown were harder with this event than others, or was it the fact that you just kind of did what you normally did, which is to rely on that leadership team, and that's how you kept it in balance? Was there something more difficult about this event as a result to the widespread unknown, or would you say no, it was consistent?
This for me, it feels completely different. I think there's so much anxiety. I worry about my employees, the reps. Family members. There's a lot of unknowns still. Do we have really good information about when this is going to, when we're going to peak and plateau or start coming down on that curve? It's just I just don't think we have enough information. What I think we're doing now too is we're trying to run. We've got the infrastructure set up, and that's running well. Now it's what are we going to do tomorrow? What's going to happen? For instance, if the governor of New Jersey and New York say, okay, we're going to go back to work May 15th, I have to make a decision if I feel even comfortable with that I'm going to have my employees come back. I might stay in this separated mode for a longer period of time. Then we also have to start to prepare for, okay, what happens if it would be great if it just goes away, but what happens if it comes back again? We have to, plan 2. And prep. And I know what I'm going to do because we're having trouble. I don't know how you run in the office, Anthony, or people wearing masks in the office. We suggest it, and we want to get them, but I can't find them.
We can help you with that, Ralph. We have a customer actually that's doing that now. But for us, we actually in the middle of March, when this really all came to a head, we allowed everybody to work remotely. So we're fortunate in having the tools and the things that we needed to do that. So that has, so from a safety perspective, I think it was a great thing to be able to do that. And the employees, the staff members really appreciated the ability to be able to work from home. And our business was able to continue pretty much without a blip, if you will, at least from the perspective of being able to do the things that we needed to do. Now, of course, we have different customers that, some have different needs today, and being able to respond to those becomes real important. But in terms of the anxiety associated with it, there is a lot of worry and concerns about navigating it. But one of the things that I found really helps to alleviate that is to navigate, right, to action things, and that part is really important, because if you're just going to sit around and not really try and build any kind of bridge from point A to point B, then that causes a lot of anxiousness. So I think, working towards a common goal becomes important. And the other thing that's interesting today too is that the short-term goals are very different from long-term goals. And when I say short-term, I mean weeks. And when I say long-term, I mean months, right? And, evaluating how that's going to change, or at least being able to look at where will that potentially change, or how much could that change, and being able to be prepared for that. I mean, those are the types of things that myself and the leadership team, really are looking at, right? How do we prepare for whatever else may get thrown at us? So, just doing the work, right? Really putting the thought into it and putting together an action plan really helps to alleviate the anxiety across the board, I believe.
Yep, I agree.
Okay. I think Kelly, I want to just take a moment. Do we have any questions from the attendees that would like to be asked?
We actually do. Thank you. It looks like we have one come over the Q&A. In a previous life, there were two types of plans that we had to develop. One was a disaster recovery plan, and the second was a business continuity plan. Do you think that this is something that post-COVID-19 we can help our customers in their future preparedness?
I think absolutely. And I think business continuity moving forward is going to be so much broader than it was yesterday, if you will, because I don't think, disaster recovery is responding to an event. You have your systems that go down and you need to deal with that. And, different organizations have different needs, but business continuity today, I think, is going to mean something very, very different from what it meant, the day before, if you will, because we're having to deal with business continuity in an environment that nobody really expected. A pandemic that keeps people from going to work and makes many, many businesses come to a complete stop was something that was completely unexpected. So I think a lot of what we do moving forward is going to be very focused on how do you connect people when they can't physically be connected? How do you keep the productivity of organizations up? And that's the thing today. Everybody could go and work remotely, and some people will have great success and some people will not have as much great success. Well, how do we make them as productive when people are remote as when they are in the office? And I think a lot of companies are going to be looking at that today. I think a tremendous number of organizations have done a masterful job at really keeping their people safe, allowing them to work from home and keeping the lights on in the business. How do you get efficient and productive in that environment? Because I don't think that this will be the last time that we see something like this, unfortunately.
I think we're going to have to, once we get through this, evaluate what we did well and what we did poorly. Might even have to have a great staff, but after it's said and done, we're probably going to monitor who we felt was more productive than others and why. Can we get them on the higher end of the productivity scale? And really looking forward was difficult, but yeah, you said we have the disaster recovery plan in place. This is a little bit different, and communicating again. A lot of it's communications on keeping everybody up in the loop. We are internally. I've been looking at continuity plans. God forbid something happens to me, kind of a thing,
right.
And who's the next person in line. We have to get all that in place. We've been doing that even with our reps. God forbid something happens. We have a lot of independent guys, just ones and twos. And if something did happen to them, and we have people that are in the hospital, they can't produce at all. So they have to have a continuity plan for themselves, either for the short term or the long term.
Right. And how do you support that, right? That's some of the things I guess you'll be thinking about. How do you support the continuity plan that they need to put in place to provide whatever resources they may need?
Yeah, we had an unfortunate situation last year where we had a rep pass away and didn't have a plan at all. I brought it up at a conference, and we really have made a big push to make sure we at least encourage all of our advisors to have a backup plan or a backup person, especially if they're on their own. Some of the offices are 8, 10 people, but most of them are 1s, 2s, 3s kind of a thing. And if something happens to that key person, they have to have it in writing, basically. And we've been matching up our advisors with each other to be the backups in their continuity plans too.
Got it. Makes
Thank
sense.
you. The next one that came in was, is crisis a test of how strong your leadership team truly is?
That's a good question, and I think that very much is right. The leadership team and their ability to be able to work together and focus, setting those priorities and executing on those priorities is critically important. Because if they're not able to execute in real time and under normal business situations, it's very difficult to execute during a crisis. So the leadership team is that, to me, as important as the CEO, if not a lot more important, because at the end of the day, they really are the ones that are executing and keeping the business moving forward. So it's critical to have a strong leadership team.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, in this case, my team has just done a phenomenal job of getting it done and being segregated from each other. We split up myself and my COO, marketing and his second in command split. We split up every kind of department. So one's from home, one's from the office, but we haven't had a glitch, and there was really no urgency that I had to put on them. They just kind of took it and ran with it and got it all done. And they're doing it from the people that are in the office are doing it, and the people at home are doing it just as well. So I think it's a team. You have to, and that takes a long time to build. Anthony, I'm sure you agree. It didn't happen overnight.
Okay.
28 years ago, or into, yeah, it was a little tougher.
Well, CEOs were. I'm sorry, Ralph.
Yeah, but it takes time to really get that good cohesive staff and that works really well together, and we've got a great one right now.
As CEOs, we're both very fortunate to have great leadership teams working with us. So
there is a follow-on question to that, and then Lisa, I'll go ahead and turn it back over to you. The follow-on question is: strength a reflection of your own leadership? And then in quotes, crisis is a mirror.
I didn't get that. You cut out. Strength over.
Is that strength a reflection of your own leadership?
I think it's a reflection of a number of things. I think the strength that we have as an organization is a reflection of every person that we have in this company, and their ability to be able to put their best foot forward and participate in helping navigate through this crisis. So, I think fundamentally for MicroStrategies, one of the things that we are fortunate is that we have a tremendous organization of people. That's what we are. We're people. We didn't invent anything. We don't have a particular software product. What we have is a lot of knowledge, skill, motivation, and a lot of heart in this organization. And that's where the strength comes from. I can navigate and I can set the compass direction, and the leadership team can execute, but it's everybody working together that really provides the strength.
Yeah, I agree. And I think we kind of touched on that a little bit. I think, yeah, in some respects, the strength of the CEO kind of trickles down. And when it does trickle down, it trickles down all the way through the whole organization so that everybody feels like they're a piece of it and a part of it and working together.
Absolutely.
So you guys both talked about impacts to businesses with respect to things that they're focusing on now with respect to business continuity that would be very different than before the crisis. I think you both are right that it was very focused, I think, on technology and restoring that technology, where now it's around how do you really operate that business. So when it comes to succession planning or certain roles, my question to you is, if that's, within businesses, within your own businesses, you're looking at things that are going to be different. Do you think that there's things beyond your businesses more broadly across, both globally or within the U.S. that you feel as though are going to be impacted as a result that potentially could impact your businesses as far as how we deal with things differently, whether it's from health, safety, or to your point, to roles that are critical?
Yeah, I think there's going to be, lots of changes in businesses as a result of this. I think, how they operate is going to be one portion of it, right? How can they operate under different conditions? I think that's going to be critically important to organizations moving forward. But the other thing is how are their businesses going to be different? right? And one of the things that we're trying to identify as an organization is how are our customers' businesses going to be different? And then how do we support them with technology, right? To be able to allow them to be agile and be different and be successful, right? So those are some of the things that we're looking at right now. Organizationally, what do we need to do differently to support where our customers are going to be going? Because what they were doing already may change considerably. And I think when you look at the much more broadly than our own customer sets, if you will, I think that the world is going to change quite a bit. I mean, you take a look at travel and hospitality. I think the lingering effects from that's going to be for many years. How are people going to operate a little bit differently, right? Are they, we love to do lots of things as community, whether it happens to be a sports game or even going on vacation, whether it happens to be a cruise ship or what have you. How's that going to change, right? It's some interesting questions that we have, looking forward.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know what's air travel going to look like tomorrow. What's going to a restaurant going to look like? Even for us, Stan, who chatted with us before the meeting started, he brought up great points. From the technology side too, we're going to do a lot more Zoom meetings. We're going to be doing a lot more virtual stuff. We need more paperless. We have a lot of it, but the financial services industry in general hasn't really caught on, which is insane because we have tons and tons of paper.
Right.
But all of those things are going to change. I think we're going to all, I think it was Fauci said, maybe we'll never shake hands again.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Right.
I think, from a personal point of view, are you going to stock up on masks for a while, or is that going to be just a short-term thing? Being more prepared and thinking about what to do in these, pandemic or real crisis situations is a major concern. It's going to change the world, and we have a conference coming up with plans for September, and I'm not sure what to do there because we won't have a clarity on what's going on completely yet. But would you want to be on a plane in September and go to a hotel and be in a big room of people?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not sure.
Yeah. And I think it'll be interesting to see how these very large digital meetings go. Where you've got hundreds and thousands and maybe even tens of thousands of participants. I will tell you that I'm very surprised how well everybody has adapted, though, to virtual meetings and things like this. And, that part is really interesting. I myself personally don't generally work from home because I like to be with the team at the office. It creates lots of conversations that don't happen when you're not there, and I like to stay close to the staff. But these virtual meetings have been very good. It's allowed us to continue to move forward, which is really important. And I find the video aspect of that very important. Conference calls are tough because you really can't understand whether you're getting your message across or not. But when you have a video call, it's almost as good as being there. So I think that that has made things allowed us to operate pretty well, I should say. So
yeah, it's much more personal with the video than 2 months ago when I was doing my town hall and it was just audio. Right. It is different. We're just Rob went out and IT and Mike purchased a whole video system for the conference room because we canceled our conference that was coming up in May, but now we have our sponsor companies and our vendors that 70, 80 of them that would be at that conference. Now we're planning on rolling out a series of mini video type conferences. It could be a half day. We're not sure of the format yet, a whole day, or 2 hours this day, 1 hour that day, so that we can get everybody the same information, the advisors the same type of information, and to help them grow their businesses and not actually get to that conference. And it, on one hand, it enhances the vendors because not everybody comes to the conference, but now you might have access to we would usually get about 100 people out of 300, but now they're going to be able to access all 300. So in one sense, it's going to give them more visibility.
Yeah. Agreed.
Were there other questions from the attendees that you wanted to ask?
Yeah, we actually did have another one come in. And it looks like this might have gone back to the conversation you guys had a few moments ago, but don't we think we should be more process-driven rather than people-driven than putting together a BCP?
I'm sorry, Kelly, then putting together?
A business continuity plan.
I think it depends on what we're talking about, right? Like today, it's very hard to be process driven because nobody has process. So the key is to be agile. And, you know, given the priorities, we have to be very people driven too, right? And it's our entire ecosystem, if you will. So
I think it's a balance of both.
Yeah, exactly. I agree.
And then the final question we had come in is, how can one look at productivity when people are working remotely?
That's a good question, and actually there are some ways now as a result of this pandemic. There are certain analytics tools that people are really developing at this point to be able to identify the productivity. And I think that's a question that many organizations are going to be asking. And I think some people exist very well in a remote environment for different reasons, and some other people like the social aspect of it. Now here in our organization, for instance, one of the key attributes, one of the key values to our customers is our ability to be able to innovate, right? How do we help drive their business with technology? And that requires innovation. It requires a lot of different skill sets and a lot of different people. And there is nothing like putting a bunch of people in a room in front of a whiteboard and having them create. So to me, you know, the office environment is still very, very important. Assessing the productivity outside of the office is going to be necessary. And I think, as I said, a lot of people do very well working remotely. And one of the biggest things they'll say to you is because of the fact that they're not distracted. And yes, so that makes their own individual productivity go up. But lots of times if they're getting distracted, it may be from individuals that need help. And if they can't get that help, well, maybe their productivity is going down. All right, because they're not able to ask questions or get the help that they need. So that's going to be a very important question. That's going to be a very important thing moving forward for organizations to be able to assess that. And actually, there are some very, very good tools now to be able to do that. It tracks all sorts of data and information from systems. It is from systems when people are working at home that could give some good insights into that.
Yeah, I mean, you know more on the tech side than I do, but I know that we can monitor how many pieces of paper are processed by people, who's doing what, phone calls are tracked, who's answering calls. Contact management systems can track numerous things out there now, and also you can judge it if you have two people doing. In our, we're a smaller organization. Two people are doing a similar job. Or a joint job, and if one gets more overloaded than the other, you're going to know that there's something's going on with one of them.
Right.
So, but it's not a perfect world, I don't think, to capture, but there are tools out there that I'm sure we're all going to be looking at.
Steve also talked about customers in different ways. How are you, given the limitations of being physically in proximity with people? How are you engaging your customers to understand what their needs are, how they're weathering this crisis, and understanding what you can do for them?
Well, initially, we for the investment center, we had a big group conference call, told them the plan. I personally called 100 people, get a feel for what's going on. We have relationship teams that contact all of our advisors. We are a phone business too, and we're always in constant contact with them. And we just have to create probably more of these, and we are going to create these type of meetings to get more feedback and more input from them as to what they need going forward, and so that we can help them grow and prosper, even in these times of crisis.
Agreed.
Anthony, do you have any thoughts that you want to share with how your teams are engaging their customers?
For us, it's a big outreach on the part of the sales team as well as the technical individuals and myself. And I think that part is, that part has been great. Actually, I called on Ralph's organization and found out he was on vacation when this all first started to happen. I'm like, holy crow! I said that's a bad time for him to be out. But as he said, his leadership team really kept everything moving, which is great. But for us, it's really reaching out to our customers, understanding where they're at, what they're doing, and what help can we provide them to support the today and then to support the tomorrow, whatever that tomorrow is for them. So it's that respect, it's hand-to-hand combat. As well, though, this webinar is one way for us to be able to reach out. What we're all trying to do is to provide little nuggets of information that help our customers in different ways, right? And help our communities too. And that part is very important. So we've been trying to really get out of the box and communicate through every method possible to reach our customers and provide value to them one way or another.
So I know we have about 5 minutes left, and this has been a great conversation. I think we've touched on some great topics with respect to, what you as leaders of organizations are really focused on, and how you, you look at your people first, but then also integrate your leadership and the planning that you need to do to prioritize what needs to be done to respond to a crisis of this magnitude. I just have one final question for the both of you. Different people use different terminology with respect to this is the new normal, or what is the new normal going to be, as well as I've also heard terminology around, a never normal, in the sense that, there will never be a normal state. What are your thoughts with respect to that thought process?
For me, years ago, it seemed like a simpler life, and things changed a little bit slower. Yeah, I agree with that. There is no new normal. I think it's never normal. It's going to be the way it is. We just don't know what's going to happen next and how to deal with it all. I would have never guessed that. I'm like Anthony. I like going into the office. I like seeing the people. I like walking by a desk and seeing that someone's doing something. And I was never really for work from home. But you know what? After this, maybe it is going to be in that direction. I'm not sure. Because, I think when you're in it, it sounds really good. But once we get back to what our quote normal is, maybe I'll get back to my old thought process. But I think we all have to look at this new, how to process, how to go forward in this new world where there are going to be some significant changes in just in life and in general, and we're going to have to adapt.
Yeah. For us in the technology business, I can't tell you that I've ever felt that there's been a normal, because every time it seemed like that we kind of got into a specific spot and charted a specific course, right? Something would change, and it may have been the economy, or more than likely it was just technology in general. And we've had such large sweeping changes, every 5 to 10 years in technology. As an organization, trying to keep up is one of the biggest challenges we have, and it's something that we've navigated for 37 years. So I don't think that we've ever had a normal per se. There's never really been a time where I felt like we could just sit back and do the same thing for a few years moving forward. And I will tell you that would be nice, but at this point, I'm sure that I'll never see it.
The tech is driving the never normal. I think.
Ralph?
Yes.
This is Brian Garnett. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. First, I want to just quickly say that you guys have done an amazing job of communicating and putting out content for us as advisors. So I want to thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Keeping the office up and running. My question is, every time is different, yet every time is the same. And why does everyone think this time everything's going to be so different? Like after September 11th, things are going to be so different, but then eventually they went back to normal. We've had pandemics in the past, maybe a long time ago, but eventually things go back to normal. Why was everyone so sure that this time it's going to be different forever? I mean, my experience is people who want to work from home, and now they're home and they're like, you know what? Working from the office is really great. Maybe this home thing's overrated. And I can't imagine an environment where we don't shake hands and say hello to people and embrace. I don't know. I just think it may take a little time, but why are we so sure this time will be so different?
I think, from our perspective, and mine and Anthony's in this call, Anthony's a tech company and how we do business. I think it's going to change, like I said, for us. Maybe we do have more home office staff working from home and remotely, bringing products and services and tech to you, our advisors, that allows you better to even, and just in general, be able to work without touching people per se. Yeah, I think once if we get a vaccine for this, yeah, we're probably, most of the people will go right back to normal. And to another point, some people are still doing it, but they're putting other people in harm's way. You see that some people just don't want to change, and they're going out doing whatever they want. I go out for walks and I see people playing basketball.
I think I think we will go to a new normal. It's not going to be the old normal. I think fundamentally, we're going to change in ways, and just like Ralph said, in how we work, right? We're going to, many of our customers today who never thought they could work remotely are working remotely today. And I don't think that's going to change exactly back to where we were. I think it's going to be a combination. And I think as we interact as people, I think that's going to change too. I think, today, we've had to do things, right? We've been sequestered, with our families, and that has changed things. Like, I'm not so sure that I'll be going out to a restaurant as often as I used to, only because we found, lots of other things to be able to, to do at home that are very, very enjoyable. And we're also social creatures too. And we have not had the ability to be able to socialize in the same manner that we're generally used to. So I think the effects are going to be lasting, and not in a negative way. We're going to take the most positive out of that, right? Because we never want to go back to the negative aspects of any change, but we certainly want to take the benefit and the value from the positive things. So I think that our normal is going to be changed. Maybe not a ton, but I do think our overall normal is going to be, quite a bit changed, both personally and then as well as business. I think customers are going to have little different perspectives of what their business is about. I'll give you one good example: food delivery today, right? Or going and picking up takeout at restaurants. I don't know about everybody else, but I rarely did that. It had to be a special occasion. And now it's pretty normal. Well, I think that you're going to see lots of restaurants takeout business going to be considerably higher, or as well food delivery from groceries. I mean, those things are going to change because people have experienced it now. Organizations have organized it now to make it happen, right? Look how much that has changed for supermarkets or liquor stores, right? Delivery, bring it out to the curb, what have you. People ordering online. So I think the world is, and I think our country and I think our communities there's going to be some lasting changes associated with it. But hopefully all the positive things that we had yesterday we're going to get back to pretty soon.
Anthony, Ralph, thank you for those comments. And I know that a bunch of you still have questions that we didn't get to. Unfortunately, it is 11 o'clock, so we do need to wrap up the webcast. We will make a point, if you have asked a question that we didn't get to and identified your name, we will make a point to reach out to you and make sure we get you an answer to that question. On behalf of Ralph, your company, MicroStrategies, I think it's very important to let you guys know that we do appreciate you and we thank you, and that all the work the leadership teams are putting in to keep the companies running and to keep us busy. I think it's just so important you guys know how appreciated that is and that it's recognized.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Lisa, is there anything else you wanted to share?
No, I just wanted to say thank you to both Anthony and Ralph for the opportunity to engage in this conversation with them. It was great to hear your insights and gain your perspective. So thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody, and stay safe.
Stay safe and stay well.
Safe.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Perfect. Thank you. Everyone have a good one. Bye.